do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome into the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on X, __ Jonathan Smith. To follow me and watch the show there, you can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app. Yeah, big time show today. We're still talking Pacers and that playoff run. We're going to look ahead a little bit. The NBA draft is tomorrow as well, so we might get into that a little bit, but a lot of hoops today. Not much coming out from the Colts right now, which is a good thing. Like I'm kind of glad that I'm not hearing anything insane or, bad or even good really from the Indianapolis Colts. Stay quiet, keep building, don't draw any unwanted attention, because that's the last thing that the Colts need. Okay, like gain attention by winning, not by doing insane things like signing Daniel Jones to have arguably the worst quarterback competition of all time. Now, I want to start with the Indiana Pacers. Yesterday's show had a very somber mood, and it should have, right? Tyrese Halliburton tears his Achilles. I don't know if you saw his post on X, but he's doing very well. He said he would do it again if he had the choice, and I don't blame him. It's, game 7 of the NBA Finals. You work your whole life to get there, and I couldn't imagine not playing in the NBA Finals. This is what I'm about to say doesn't even compare to Tyrese Halliburton. But when I was a senior in high school, we were in the state tournament and playing the best team in the state. We're up 1-0, fourth inning. Little blooper gets hit over my head. I'm playing shortstop because I was like that back in the day. And long story short, the left fielder dives into my knee, and it was no good. And I couldn't play the rest of the game. It's heartbreaking. It's not a good feeling. So I'm not. Never mind. Let me just stop. Let me not try to compare that to tearing your Achilles in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Let me just stop right there. Anyway, even though the Pacers were unable to win Game 7 on Sunday, that was just fun. The whole journey of getting to the finals, all of the crazy comebacks were just a blast. And we haven't done this in a while because there's just been so much going on. But on Tuesdays, I usually do a segment called Top 10 Tuesday where we run through the 10 best fill in the blank. And I want to do the top 10 Pacer playoff moments. And if you're watching on YouTube, hop in the chat. Let me know what your favorite one was. If you're watching on X, feel free to at me. I think there's a chat. If you watch live on X, I don't really know how that works. But at __ Jonathan Smith if there's not. So starting with number 10, Miles Turner going for 23 points and 4 blocks in Game 4 in the win over the Milwaukee Bucks. When the NBA playoffs started, and here's why it's one of my favorite moments or games of the playoffs for the Pacers. When the playoffs started, let's just be honest, no one thought that the Pacers were going to be good enough to get to the NBA Finals. There were plenty of people who picked the Milwaukee Bucks to beat the Indiana Pacers because they had Giannis. And the Pacers are up 2-1. They lost Game 3 on the road against Milwaukee. And they win Game 4 because Miles Turner was awesome. And, there was a lot of discussion about Miles Turner and his extension and all those things yesterday. With that being said, I know that he wasn't very good in the NBA Finals, but the first 3 rounds, he was pretty freaking good. And Game 4 against the Bucks, I thought symbolized something pretty big, pretty important. It was the first time I said that. I was like, this team would probably get back to the Eastern Conference Finals after watching them, destroy the Bucks in Game 4 on the road. Because that's what great teams do. They win on the road early in the playoffs, but they don't just win. They crush the inferior opponents on the road early in the playoffs. In Game 4, the Indiana Pacers did that, led by Miles Turner, who once again at 23 points and 4 blocks. Number 9, this isn't really one moment per se, but it's a bunch of them. Every TJ McConnell spurt is just a blast. It is. Like watching him run around and just do all of the TJ McConnell things, stealing inbound passes and, you know, getting to within 4 feet of the basket and then jumping as high as he can and then scoring. Every TJ McConnell spurt is a blast to watch, except for the one in Game 7 because he kept turning the ball over. But the best ones, like probably I think it was Game 6. Or was it Game 3? Game 3 against the Thunder, where he like steals 3 inbound passes in that game, and he's just running around doing all of the TJ McConnell things that we expect for him to do, was a lot of fun. Number 8, Game 3 of the NBA Finals, Bennedict Mathurin scoring 27 points in 22 minutes. Bennedict Mathurin is such an interesting player. There's a lot to like about him. You know, he can score in isolation. When he goes to the rim, he gets fouled. He makes free throws. I mean, he's awesome. But he comes off the bench, and there's some games where it's pretty clear that Coach Carlisle doesn't want to play him, mainly the games where he plays like 10 minutes. But then there's other nights, like Game 7, where you really need him, right? 24 points, 13 rebounds. He was really good in that game. And I am so intrigued to see how he evolves as a player, how he gets better, because I do think that he's the kind of guy who's going to, probably go on vacation, go somewhere nice. He likes to bake. So, he'll probably bake it up a little bit. But when that's done, I do expect for Bennedict Mathurin to get better in this very short offseason for the Indiana Pacers. Like, they started back up here pretty quickly. And Bennedict Mathurin, that Game 3 on the biggest stage in the sport, I don't want to call it eye-opening, because I think everybody who's watched the Pacers sees Mathurin, and you can kind of see the vision of this guy who's, a go-to scorer on a great team. And he kind of was that this year. But I don't know. It just made me think like maybe there's a little more out there for him other than just being the 6th man of the year. I know he thinks that there's more out there. I wasn't convinced of it. But then Game 3 happened, and it was a lot of fun. Number 7, Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals, the Pacers beating the Knicks to clinch a spot in the NBA Finals. Just the feeling going into that game of like, oh, geez, man. Like, I was nervous. Like, I haven't been nervous watching any sporting event in quite some time. And Game 6 against the Knicks at home was one of those games, and obviously Game 7 of the NBA Finals on Sunday. And just the feeling of reaching the NBA Finals, of winning the Eastern Conference, and the validation of it. Because, like, let's just be really honest. There were people who doubted the Indiana Pacers this year because last year on their road to the Eastern Conference Finals, they beat a Bucks team that Giannis didn't play in a game in that series. And Damian Lillard, he got hurt in the middle of the series. And I think he only played 2 games of the 6. And then they play the Knicks, and that series goes 7 games. And what happens? A bunch of guys for the Knicks get hurt. Now, the Pacers would have won Game 7 one way or the other because they set a playoff record for the highest field goal percentage in any playoff game ever. And I don't think it really would have mattered if OG Anunoby had played or if Brunson had been fully healthy. It was just one of those nights where the Pacers were going to shoot better than you, and there wasn't much you could really do about it. And then this year, they not only get back to the Eastern Conference Finals, but they go through a healthier version of the Milwaukee Bucks, and then they go through a 64-win Cleveland Cavaliers team, and then they go through a fully healthy New York Knicks team. And I just, the buzzer hit 0. They officially go back to the NBA Finals. I just had like this little grin on my face. I was just like, yeah, validated. Let's go. Number 6, my 6th favorite moment of this Pacer playoff run. By the way, we're going to have Tony East on at 11, and we're going to talk about some of these moments and just how much fun it was watching this Pacer team throughout these playoffs. My 6th favorite moment, Tyrese Halliburton, 32 points, 15 assists, no turnovers in Game 4. And I think what made that moment so sweet was the fact that was amidst all of the superstar talk, when the finals came around, that discussion kind of died down a little bit. But, you got, all these idiots, saying Tyrese Halliburton's not a superstar. Mainly Stephen A. Smith, the biggest of all the idiots. And Halliburton goes out and just played a flawless game. And part of why I had faith and confidence in Tyrese Halliburton going into Game 7 of the NBA Finals is because of what happened in Game 4. I think part of why people thought Halliburton was going to have a big game, besides the fact that he started 3 of 4 from 3, was because of what happened in Game 4 of the of the Eastern Conference Finals, where in the biggest game of that series, Tyrese Halliburton goes 32 points, 15 assists, no turnovers, just an absolutely flawless game from the Pacers' best player. And it was a blast. I will never forget that game. Number 5, Siakam going for 39 points against the Knicks in Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals, because the Pacers win Game 1. And the narrative was, crazy comeback. Aaron Nesmith got hot late. Knicks are still probably better. The Pacers stole that one. All those good things. And then Game 2, the Pacers won again. And it's because Pascal Siakam just got to a spot time and time again and simply did not miss. I will say the one thing about that game that really upset me, I was at the watch party. I had a nice little bet going. I had a bet that, the Pacers would score 50 points or more in each half. They scored 49 points in the first half because, the only shot that Pascal Siakam missed came late, and it was when they had 49. Number 4, Ross Campbell's favorite right here. By the way, if you have a favorite Pacer playoff moment, head over to YouTube, hop in the chat, and let me know. Ross Campbell saying that his might be the Halliburton shot on Ty Jerome to go up 2 on the Cavs. It was over after that. Yeah, that's what I have 4th. Because, Game 5 against the Bucks, which I'm about to get to here in a second, it happens. You're like, oh, that's cool. And then you get to Game 2 against Cleveland. Pacers win Game 1 by 9. And then it's like, all right, Cleveland's going to win Game 2. It'll be 1-1 going to Indy. Game 3 is going to be amazing. All that good stuff. No, and Game 3 was not amazing because Game 2 was. Another crazy late game comeback by the Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton misses a free throw short. You get the perfect bounce off the rim. It just popped straight into the air. Miles Turner finds a way to tip the ball up. Tyrese Halliburton jumps in the air, grabs it, runs it back out, looks up, and says, oh, I got Ty Jerome on me. Let me just go score really quickly. And, he gets downhill left, takes that step back 3, knocks it down over the top. Money. That was my 4th favorite playoff moment. My 3rd is the Bucks comeback. And it's because I was in the building for it. You're sitting there and I'm watching, and everyone's leaving. People are leaving the arena. And I'm just kind of I don't know, Pacers can still win this. And they do. They go on that crazy run. It was like a 9-0 run in the final 30 seconds or whatever it was. And they tie it up. They send it to overtime. Final possession. I'm just sitting there with Amelia, and I'm like, oh, man, they got Giannis defending Halliburton. This probably won't go well because the entire series, Giannis had stopped whoever he had been defending, guard, big, whoever. And Tyrese Halliburton finally found a way to get by the dude, hits the right-handed layup, ball game. John Halliburton runs out onto the court, and then you get all of that stuff, right? And you get Giannis and, talking about him. And it was, that part, not fun. But the comeback and the game winner, a lot of fun. Number 2, the Knicks come back. Aaron Nesmith. There's nothing more fun, I think, in, basketball than watching a guy get hot from 3 and watching just the confidence that they have, but also watching just the panic of the defense. Aaron Nesmith makes the first 3, and then it's like, it's fine. And then he makes the second 3, and then it's like, still up big. No big deal. And then he makes the third. And then we should probably start to defend this guy. And then he makes the fourth. And now alarms are going off. And it's like, oh no, man. Like we gotta find this dude. And he's running around screens, Aaron Nesmith, and he is like no hesitation, catch and shoot. This ball's going up every time I touch it because this is like NBA Jam level fire right now, where the Nets are steaming and all that good stuff. And by the way, Aaron Nesmith defends like he's in NBA Jam, the way he pushes dudes and gets really physical. But that's, we can talk about that later. And then you've got the Halliburton. I think this is my second favorite moment because it's the Knicks, because it's Madison Square Garden, but also the shot. Like, that is the weirdest game winner I've ever witnessed, where like you're in the lane and you could very easily take a floater and you're like, you know what? Never mind. Let me actually turn around, sprint backwards, turn 180 degrees and get this shot up. And then it hits the heel of the rim. And I love the video from the Knicks watch party going on outside where the ball hits the heel of the rim and the crowd erupts. And then it falls through. And then everyone just like stops. Like you could have heard a pin drop in New York City when that ball went through the bucket, which makes it all the better. And then you got Tyrese Halliburton doing the choke sign. And then, you learn that his foot's on the line. You're like, oh man, like now we got to go to overtime. It is a game and a playoff moment that I'll probably never forget. And then number one has to be the Tyrese Halliburton NBA Finals Game 1 winner. And to me, I love that shot first and foremost because I thought that whole game kind of showed who the Pacers are and who they had been the entire playoffs. It's like the second time all year that the Thunder had lost a game, regular season or postseason, where they had forced 20 turnovers or more. And the Pacers just didn't care. Like, they just kept playing the game. They just kept going. They led for all of 2 seconds in that game. And the feeling of, oh crap, like they're going to do it a fourth time in these playoffs. And Tyrese Halliburton, he gets the ball and he comes jogging up the floor. And, I'll ask, the people in the chat this question. Once again, Indie Sports Ticket on YouTube, if you want to head over there and subscribe. I was born a little after Jordan. I remember Jordan on the Wizards. That's about it. When you watched Tyrese Halliburton in these playoffs attempt these game-winning shots, did you have Michael Jordan level confidence in him that it was going to go in? Because around all the lore of Michael Jordan, there's this expectation that he's going to make every big-time shot that he needs to make. And when he pulls up and he takes those shots, you expect them to go in. When you watched Halliburton in this playoff run, did you feel the same way? I'm really curious because I feel like that's how I felt. It's like, yeah, he's got the ball. There's 8 seconds left. Yeah, this game's over. Pacers are winning here because he's going to make the shot. And in game 1, he lived up to it. And it's not even just that. I think after he makes that shot, that was the moment where it felt like they could legitimately win the NBA Finals. The shot goes in, and it's like they just won game 1 on the road, and they didn't even play very well. And the defense was actually pretty good. They limited Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams. He wasn't, he was bad in that game. And you could see that there was a path for them to win the finals. And it went from, this is probably not going to happen to, oh, this could most definitely happen after game 1. So what a fun ride from the Pacers and Tyrese Halliburton. I hope that he heals up quickly. If you haven't seen his message, he put it out there last night. And it's on X. He had his surgery in New York yesterday. Don't know when he's going to be back here, but we'll see. Hopefully he heals up and he's ready to go. Not this year, but next. Speaking of next year, the Eastern Conference is going to be very interesting. It's to a point where even though Tyrese Halliburton isn't going to play, the Pacers could still have home court advantage in the playoffs. It's how bad the Eastern Conference is going to be next year. I've got more thoughts on it when we come back here in about 4 minutes. Tony East joining the show at 11, and we're going to give away Holiday World tickets after that interview. I will not forget today like I did yesterday. So make sure you're tuned in between like 11:20 and 11:30. That's probably when we're going to give those Holiday World tickets away. So when we come back here in about 4 minutes, we'll talk about the Eastern Conference next season.
Folks ask, Salty Pete, what's the best part of being a pirate? Hello? It's all the buried treasure. I've been following this here treasure map all day. Time to dig. Oh, I once knew a lesson, old Charlie was... Arr!
You just hit a power line.
Contact Indiana 811 at least 2 working days before picking up a shovel. It's the only way to dig. Learn more at 811.safedigindiana.com.
Sponsored by the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission.
It may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Uh-oh. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on X _ Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. Maybe you're listening on that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you are tuning in. Today's The Real Jonathan Smith Show is sponsored by the one and only Holiday World and Splash and Safari. It's hot. Played pickleball yesterday, 30 minutes. I was like, I got to go home. It's too warm for this. You know, I'm like drenched in sweat. This is brutal. It's cooking outside. You know what's not cold? Splash and Safari. You want to cool down a little bit? Get on a roller coaster and just go flying around with the wind in your face. It'll cool you right off. Holiday World and Splash and Safari. Go check it out. We are giving away tickets after the Tony East interview, which is coming up here at 11 o'clock. So when that interview concludes, get your phone out, get ready, 317-228-1430, and we will give those tickets away. Excuse me. The Eastern Conference next year is going to be fascinating. Everyone is looking around like, who's the best team? The Knicks? You mean the team that's going to put Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns on the floor and think that they can guard people? Like, you know, we can probably beat them. Oh, it's the Cavaliers? You mean the team with the two small guards in the backcourt? And everyone knows how hard it is to win with small guards. There is not a team in the Eastern Conference that I think truly demands the respect of everyone else, especially since Tyrese Halliburton is now not going to play next year after tearing his Achilles. And now the Celtics just traded away Drew Holiday for Anthony Simons, really good player, by the way. And so the East next year, it's going to be interesting. Like the Celtics, I think, got better. I wasn't super impressed with Drew Holiday. They got significantly younger. Anthony Simons is, mid-20s. And it's going to be very interesting to kind of see what the Eastern Conference looks like next year. I love the Magic. I really do. Right? They just made this trade for Desmond Bane. I think they're going to be one of the three best teams in the East next year. They were by far the worst three-point shooting team in the league this last year. They're bringing in a guy in Desmond Bane from Indiana, by the way, who shot 39% from three last year, can handle the ball, is around the same age as Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner. And, they got some young guys that I like too, like Jonathan Isaac and Anthony Black. And you just kind of run through it. They were really good this year before someone got hurt, or before everyone got hurt, really. Paulo got hurt and missed some time. Franz Wagner then got hurt and missed some time. And then Jalen Suggs got hurt, and he missed a lot of time. So they are going to be a really, really good basketball team this next season. The Knicks, they're going to be super talented. But who's the coach? Like, they still haven't hired anybody. I'm surprised that all these sports shows still aren't talking about it. Whoever they hire, I think, is going to be not as good as Coach Tibbs. Because, as you know, they called literally everyone to see if they could interview their head coach. And literally everyone said, no, good luck. Good luck. So coaching matters. I think we saw it in this playoff run. Just look at this Pacers team. Coach Carlisle did a masterful job of managing this roster. The Cavaliers, they're going to run it back. All right. They're going to hope Darius Garland doesn't hurt his toe again. They're going to hope that Evan Mobley continues to get better. They're going to hope that Jared Allen continues to get better. All those things. So, they're still a really, really good team. The Bucks, if they could find a way to add a good player, they could be interesting. Like, they still have Giannis, the best player in the Eastern Conference by a pretty wide margin now. Who even is the second best player in the Eastern Conference? Jalen Brunson, probably? I don't know. So the Bucks are a move away from being kind of interesting. Still don't think that they're going to be good enough to win the East. They're just old. It's an older roster. And youth, I think, is a big deal. Youth and depth, two things that the Bucks do not have. And it's going to be really tough to get when, you can't trade Dame after the injury. So we'll kind of see what ends up happening with them. The Hawks, they're interesting. A lot of good wings. Jalen Johnson, Zachary Richelet, Dyson Daniels. And then, of course, they have Trae Young. So the Eastern Conference is very intriguing. And I think we're going to see some, why not us trades made by teams in the East. For example, I think that that's kind of what we saw with the Celtics yesterday. They shed some salary by moving Drew Holiday. They bring in a young, good guard in Anthony Simons. Jeez. And then you have the Pacers. What could they add? Look, they're not going to be better next year than they were this year. They're just not. Because they're not going to have Tyrese Halliburton. But who are some options? Who are some point guards? Because that's really what they need. Who are some point guards that they could bring in to, be better, be a viable option in terms of, hey, like this could be a top 4 seed in the East, maybe win a playoff series. We'll see. Also, didn't mention them. Ross mentioning the Detroit Pistons. They're going to be really good this next year as well. Like they could make a move and be really competitive. Love Cade Cunningham. Jaden Ivey was having a really good start to the season before he got hurt. If he can come back and still be a good player, then they're going to be good again. But for the Pacers, what do they need to do? Who are some guys that they could go get and, kind of see maybe if they can piece something together, be a top 6 seed and, make the playoffs again? First and foremost, guys have to get better. Like Benedict Mathurin is going to have to come back a better player. Andrew Nembhard's going to have to not shoot 29% from 3. I know that people mainly watch the playoffs. Andrew Nembhard was an abysmal 3-point shooter during the regular season. And then I don't know what happens. The playoffs start and he just doesn't miss anymore. But who are some guys? Derek White from Boston is the top of the list for me. He's a two-way guy who initiates a lot of the offense for Boston. He'd be able to come in, he can pass, he can handle, he can really shoot it. And he would be awesome. He's very expensive. That's kind of the issue with Derek White. Since they moved Drew Holiday, I don't think we're going to see Derek White get traded. He's 30, so he's a little bit older, but shot 37% from 3 last year. He's a career 38% three-point shooter. Excuse me, I said that wrong. He's a 38% three-point shooter last year. He's a 37% three-point shooter for his career. He plays on both ends. He's an awesome, awesome player. And he's a guy that I would love to see the Pacers find a way to go get. The issue is if you go get him, then you're going into the tax. And, the Pacers haven't paid the tax in forever. I know that they're probably going to go into the tax once they go get Miles Turner, or once they re-sign Miles Turner. But, we'll see what they do. Drew Holiday, I would have liked to have seen, play on this Pacer team. He's a little bit older. He's, in his mid-30s. He, I don't think I have to tell you who Drew Holiday is. He's just been a very solid player for really his whole career. He's one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. I do think that the Pacers could have benefited. He's 34, by the way. I do think that the Pacers could have benefited from having one more perimeter defender that can really get in a stance and guard, just to kind of have different options to throw at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams. But like I said, he's a little bit older. Do you want 36-year-old Drew Holiday on your team when Tyrese Halliburton comes back? How impactful is he going to be in that season? I don't know. Probably not super, but he would be an option. But the issue is he's really expensive as well, and he's still got 4 years left on his contract. These 3 guys next, though, I do think are real, legitimate options that the Pacers could look at from both a money standpoint and from this guy not only fits what we need, but when Tyrese Halliburton comes back, we can still carve out a role for them. Dennis Schroeder. This is probably the top of the list in terms of realistic options for the Pacers. For me, he's a two-way guy. He can really score it. He can really guard. Love watching him play defense. He's got some toughness to him. He just competes. He was really good for the Pistons. in the playoffs, all 6 games, just being able to come in and just be really, really impactful. And that's, that's what you want from guys. He's a guy who has spent time, doing, coming off the bench and starting. He gives you another defender, like I mentioned with Drew Holiday. He can play off the ball. He can shoot a little bit. He can initiate offense, which I think would be nice if the Pacers had another guard who could really do that. He can, create offense for other guys as well. So Dennis Schroeder, who's set to be a free agent, would be, I think, a really interesting piece for the Indiana Pacers. Tyus Jones is another guy who is, how do I even describe Tyus Jones? Imagine if Tyrese Halliburton was like 6'2" instead of 6'6" or however tall he is. A little chubbier, doesn't shoot it, super great off the bounce, but he can catch and shoot. He is an extremely light version of Tyrese Halliburton. Smaller, good passer, but not as good of a passer. Like, he'd be able to come in, be your starting point guard, and distribute the basketball. Like, that is what Tyus Jones would do. And if you left him open for 3, he would knock it down. So that is who Tyus Jones is. He's just been a really solid player through his whole career. Whether that's been coming off the bench, whether that's been in a starting role, like he's gotten, votes multiple times to be the 6th man of the year. When he's come off the bench, he was a starter this last year for most of the season in Phoenix, started, the whole season in Washington 2 years ago. Like, this is a guy who's played a lot of basketball, doesn't turn it over, gets his teammates involved. He would be an okay 1-year gap guy, but I don't think that is what Tyus Jones is really looking to do. He's still relatively young, 28, probably going to be 29 here soon, but Tyus Jones would be an interesting guy who I think would fit with the Indiana Pacers, and more importantly, he wouldn't be overly expensive. When Tyrese Halliburton comes back, he's a guy that you can move to the bench, and you can have him come off the bench and kind of run your second unit. Like, he's good enough to do that. The last guy is Ty Jerome, who feels a little bit riskier. I know that everyone loved him this year, but he's really only had one good year, and it was this year with Cleveland. Every other year has just been kind of meh. Bouncing back and forth between like the G League and the NBA. He's been on some 2-ways. You go back 2 years ago when he was in Cleveland and he only played 2 games. He's been in the league for, 6 years. He's played on 4 different teams in those 6 years. He's bounced around, but he finally kind of carved out a role in Cleveland this last year. And look, he was really good. Got votes for 6th man of the year. A 12.5-point score off the bench, a 44% three-point shooter off the bench, just a very efficient off-the-bench scorer. What does he look like when he's playing more minutes? It wasn't great when he was in Cleveland, in that series against the Pacers when they were asking him to play more, but I thought the Pacers did a really good job of guarding him. And to me, he makes a lot of sense because he could come in, he can be your starting point guard for a year. And then when Tyrese Halliburton comes back, he can go back to the role that he has now in Cleveland of let me come in off the bench, run the offense, and score a bunch of points. Like, he could be your next TJ McConnell. Like, and that is not a stretch in terms of the role, right? Like, he's not going to run around and do all the things that McConnell does, but he's going to be a good defender, and he's going to come off the bench and score. And he's a point guard who can really run your offense if you need him to. So Ty Jerome, I think, would be a fabulous, fabulous option as well. So we'll see. But the thing is, and the thing that I think makes this so tough for the Pacers is you can't just think about this year or this next season. Like, you also have to think 2 years from now. Okay? Like 2 years from now, how do these guys fit in? Because Dan and I, we were talking about this yesterday on his show. And I think he's right when he says, it doesn't seem like this front office here in Indianapolis for the Pacers. It doesn't seem like they're going to go grab Mike Conley for a year. Doesn't seem like they're just going to grab Chris Paul for a year. Like, they want a guy who's going to be around. and fits personality-wise and all of those important things. So I think that if they make a move, if the Pacers want to, they can stand idle and do nothing. More Jarris Walker minutes. Jarris Walker point forward minutes, maybe. I don't know about that. I would love that. I don't know if the Pacers would love that, but so whoever they go out and get, it's going to be a guy who can contribute for more than just next year, right? It's going to be a guy who can slide into a slightly different role when Tyrese Halliburton comes back 2 years from now after he rehabs that Achilles. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that when we come back here in about 4 minutes or so. Also going to get into Kevin Durant to the Rockets because Kevin Durant is a very polarizing figure, and what Emmanuel Achos said about him is one of the most insane things I think I've ever heard from anyone, period. So the Pacers 2 years from now when Tyrese Halliburton comes back, and a little bit on Kevin Durant being traded to the Houston Rockets.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Tickets. Head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on X. Maybe you're listening on that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps, no matter how you're listening. It is greatly appreciated. Tony East of Locked On Pacers is going to join the show coming up here in about 15 minutes to kind of reflect on this Indiana Pacers run. He also covers the Fever, so we're going to talk about them a little bit as well, because I know everyone's been locked in on the Pacers. Aside from the fights, I don't think I know I haven't been. I don't know what you've been doing, but I'm going to assume you haven't been paying much attention to the Fever either, with all the great Pacer stuff that has been going on. So the NBA, it's a really weird league. The offseason, you could argue, is more exciting than the regular season because guys get traded, free agency, all this kind of stuff. And so far, the headlining move of this offseason is Kevin Durant being traded to the Rockets. It probably will be the headlining move. It doesn't seem like the Bucks are going to move Giannis. And so I want to talk about that a little bit. But before I do want to talk about the Pacers 2 years from now, because there's going to be a discussion about who the Pacers should bring in next season and all this kind of stuff to kind of help deal with those point guard roles. And whoever the Pacers bring in to play point guard has to also be able to play alongside Tyrese Halliburton when he comes back, which is one of the easiest things to do in the NBA, by the way. Tyrese Halliburton's ability to play on the ball or off the ball is extremely valuable. His ability to just make players better, and Tyrese Halliburton's ability to figure out what players are good at and then just get them doing that thing, is why the Pacers team was as good as it was this year. No one had to do more than what they were asked because of Tyrese Halliburton. And everyone was just kind of able to do what they were good at because of Tyrese Halliburton and his ability to get his teammates the ball in positions where they need the ball. And I'm of the belief that whoever you bring in to kind of help fill the Tyrese Halliburton role while he's out for a year, they're going to be able to play alongside Tyrese Halliburton because of who Tyrese Halliburton is as a basketball player. Derek White is the guy I want more than anyone else. If you missed it, here are the guys that I just kind of threw out there that the Pacers could go get, but some of them are a little more far-fetched than not. Derek White would be awesome, but since they traded Drew Holiday, I don't think they're going to move Derek White. Drew Holiday is now a member of the Portland Trailblazers. We'll see if they flip him to gain something else because, Drew Holiday wants to be in a winning situation. Portland is not that, not quite yet. Dennis Schroeder, I think, is the first really realistic option. Tyus Jones and Ty Jerome are on the list as well. So all those guys, between Coach Carlisle and his ability to just figure stuff out and Tyrese Halliburton's ability to kind of move the ball around, the Pacers should be able to figure out a way to fit one of those guys in alongside Tyrese Halliburton. With that being said, and I know I'm wrong, and I know that the Pacers won't do this, they should tank. They should be bad next year. They should take next season, figure out, what does the best version of Bennedict Mathurin look like? If we gave Bennedict Mathurin 18 shots a night, when he played 35 minutes a night, how good would he be? Probably pretty good. If we gave Jarris Walker 30 minutes a night to really go out there and play, how good would he be? Johnny Furphy. That's a guy that we spent a pretty not a higher second round pick on. What if we played him 25 minutes a night next year? We may not win very many games, but we can kind of start to piece together what not just this year looks like, but what 4 years from now looks like when Tyrese Halliburton is still here and a lot of these guys, other guys, have moved on. And if you tank and you get in the lottery odds have changed. They have. Two out of the last 3 years, teams with incredibly low odds, the Spurs and the Mavericks the Mavericks and the Hawks have won the lottery. Be bad. Draft a really good player that, can come in and fill a role, and, they're cheap because they're going to be rookies. They're not on big contracts quite yet. I think that the Pacers should tank this next season. They can do it. They made that trade with the Raptors right before Tyrese Haliburton got hurt. They now have their 2026 first-round pick. If they're bad next year, they could legitimately have like a top 10 pick. And I think that would be very valuable, being able to add another young guy to what is an already youngish team. So we'll see what they do. They won't tank because they're way smarter than me. But that's what I think that they should do. Now, Kevin Durant, he got traded to the Rockets. Love this move. Low risk, high reward move for the Rockets. They didn't give up anything. They gave up the 10th pick this year, Dylan Brooks, Jalen Green, who was a no-show in the playoffs aside from his 40-point performance, and 5 second-round picks. And, I saw some people talk about how they gave up 5 second-round picks and how that was a big deal. And people that get excited about second-round picks in the NBA are the same people that praise Chris Ballard for getting more day 3 picks in the NFL draft. They're nice to have, I guess, but they're probably not going to change your franchise. Simple as that. Okay, the Rockets, they got better because they added Kevin Durant, and they still have assets to move if they need to make more moves. Like, they didn't give up Cam Whitmore. They didn't give up Reed Shepherd. They didn't give up Jabari Smith Jr. Okay, like, they didn't give up any other first-round picks that they have, and they have a lot of them from when they traded James Harden. So they've got assets aplenty, and the Rockets are going to be a really good basketball team this next year. The Suns, I don't know what they're going to do. Congratulations, you might get Malawak out of Duke in the draft tomorrow night, but you're not going to get, any real stud, more than likely, with that 10th pick. Like, you're not going to get Con Knipple. You're not going to get Ron Harper or Cooper Flagg or Ace Bailey or anybody like that. So if I was the Suns, I would move Devin Booker yesterday and get some real stuff to actually start a rebuild. And, I'm sure some people, when they hear that Kevin Durant got moved and they, look at how bad the Suns were. It's like, Kevin Durant's probably not as good of a player as he used to be. No, he's still awesome. And he fills the role of exactly what the Houston Rockets need. The Rockets need an end-of-game scorer. If you watch their series against the Warriors, it was a lot of fun because both teams were guarding the crap out of one another. It was a very physical series. And late in games, the Rockets were like, hey, Fred VanVleet, here's the basketball. Can you go figure it out for us? And Fred VanVleet was like, I cannot. Kevin Durant can. He's still an elite scorer. He was top 5 in the NBA this year in points per game scored on ISOs. And of those top 5 players, Kevin Durant was by far the most efficient, hitting 57% of his shots in isolation. He's still an elite shooter. He's going to be able to space the floor. Someone's like, oh, well, what about the defense? Kevin Durant's like 6'11" with incredibly long arms. If he's just in the right spot, and he will be because he's a smart basketball player, then the Rockets are going to be fine on defense. Will they be as good as the Thunder, though? I don't think so. But I do think that the Houston Rockets now have a ceiling of the Western Conference Finals. That's what I think. And they kept a lot of young players that are hopefully only going to get better as the years go on. Drew Holiday got traded to the Blazers. I understand why the Celtics did it. They were way over the cap. They know they're not going to compete for a title without Jason Tatum. So they're going to shed some salary. Drew Holiday, older player, 34 years old. He'll be 36 when Jason Tatum is revved up and ready to go again. It makes sense for them to move him. Why the Trailblazers wanted him, I have no idea. Seriously, not a clue. Like, Drew Holiday's the kind of guy that you go get if you're competing for a title. Like, I thought the Mavericks made a lot of sense for Drew Holiday. Team that, expects to kind of win right now with, adding Cooper Flagg. They need a point guard because Kyrie Irving's not going to be there. To quote Nico Harrison, defense wins championships, all that good stuff. Drew Holiday fits, I think, a lot of what Dallas was looking for, but For some reason, they didn't want to pull the trigger. Maybe, the Trailblazers had a better offer. That would make sense, but who knows? Anyway, so those are the trades that have happened so far. We've got the NBA draft going on tomorrow night, and I can't wait to talk draft because I've got takes on takes on takes about all these guys. And it's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow, but it's going to be a lot of fun here in 5 minutes because Tony East is going to join the show. We're going to talk about this Pacers run. We're going to talk a little bit about the Fever as well, just to kind of get you caught up on what's going on with their season. After the interview, I'm giving away tickets to Holiday World. The Real Jonathan Smith Show is sponsored by Holiday World and Splash and Safari. They're doing this awesome fireworks show and drone laser light show to kind of celebrate the 4th of July, which is right around the corner. So you're going to want those tickets. Listen to this interview. When we go into that break, I'm giving away tickets. So sometime between 11:20 and 11:30, get your phone out and get ready to call the number. Tony East joining the show when we come back here in about 4.5 minutes.
do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome into the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Today's show sponsored by Holiday World and Splash and Safari. As soon as the segment's over, we're giving out tickets. You want to go. They're doing an awesome fireworks show. That they've got an awesome drone show going on as well. And we're giving you tickets. They're doing that drone show and fireworks show from now through August 3rd. So go to Holiday World and Splash and Safari. Also a great opportunity to just cool off because it's freaking hot outside. Joined now by the one and only Tony East of Locked On Pacers. He also covers the Indiana Fever. He just covers all things basketball on a professional level here in the state. What's going on, Tony? How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I don't know what to do with myself now. It's a weird environment.
Sleep. That's the answer.
One day.
Really quickly, I do want to touch on Halliburton real fast because it is the thing that people are talking about. When he went down, what was kind of your reaction, and what do the Pacers do next year to kind of fill the hole that he leaves on the roster?
Yeah, it was so weird that I knew immediately what it was. I think everybody did because he already had the calf injury. And the other weird part of this is I've seen 2 other Achilles tears in person this season for one team. Insane Achilles, whatever you want to call it, luck, misfortune, whatever, for the Pacers. That 3 guys had it in 1 year, and that was so sad seeing him smack the floor and knowing right away what was going on. It stinks for the NBA that it happened in that game. It stinks for the Pacers that it happened in that game. It stinks for fans of basketball that it happened in that game. And it stinks for Tyrese Halliburton that it's going to cost him next season too, almost certainly. 99.9% chance. There's nothing good about it. It changes everything for the Pacers in a big way. That said, I 100% think he should have played the game, right? If they have a chance for the title, you got to play. I can't believe how many people are thinking the opposite about that, but just on a human level and being around all these Achilles tears all year, it was very sad and very obvious right away what was about to happen to the Pacers.
Is there a guy that the Pacers could go get in free agency who could kind of help fill that role for a year?
Man, I don't know. They do need to think about it, and by think about it, I mean they do need to add another point guard now. If they keep Turner, right, it's going to be hard to have any financial resources to do so in any sort of significant way without spending more than the minimum. So, Monte Morris, Tyus Jones, what's up, guys?
Dennis Schroeder?
He's too expensive. He would not take the minimum, I think. Yeah, I know. That's a good idea, yes. But, my guess would be that Nembhard's the starting one, McConnell's the backup one, the third string one will play because the Pacers like to play 2 point guards at once a lot. So, what's up, Tyus Jones? Or someone like that. You get what I'm saying. I think that's the move.
Yeah, I had both of those guys written down. I think Ty Jerome would be a lot of fun. He's probably a little bit too expensive because my thought process was, once again, joined by Tony East of Locked On Pacers, also writes about the Fever and the Pacers as well. I would love Ty Jerome just because it's not just about next year. It's about 2 years from now as well. Who's a guy who could also still have a role. And McConnell's going to be 34 in 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. And he's a guy who could then just kind of slide into that role as McConnell gets a little bit older too. Yeah,
McConnell turns 34 next season, right? So when Halliburton's back, he'll be 34 and a half. And, to be clear, he closed the season in the finals, amazing, obviously. Yeah. We all saw it. But the rest of his season in playoffs was, clearly not as good as he was even the year before that. Aging comes for everybody at some point. And you could tell how the Pacers felt about McConnell's future with the structure of his contract, right? They gave him that extension. That's great. He deserved it. He's very good. It's fully guaranteed the first couple years, and then it becomes a lot less guaranteed the last couple years because guys who are shorter than me don't tend to age very well in the NBA. It's incredible that somebody of his size with no jumper. Well, that's not true. With no consistent 3-point jumpers as good as he is. So, yes, that is a good way of thinking about it. But again, it'll be so interesting to see how they prioritize 1 year stopgap ideas versus long term, because I can see the argument for both.
Yeah, like you said, I can see the argument for both, and I'm very intrigued to kind of see how they deal with all of it. I do want to ask you. So I do this segment on Tuesdays, Tony, called Top 10 Tuesday, and it's just a top 10 list of whatever. And the Pacer playoff run was so much fun. And I think that we've kind of forgotten how much fun it was. I also think people have forgotten how good Miles Turner was in the first 3 rounds, but we don't have to get into all that. What was your favorite moment or game from the Pacer playoff run?
That's a great question. I mean, I like all the Halliburton buzzer beater games, like immediately rise to the top of that, obviously, just because they're so crazy and insane. Or just the game 6 clinching the Eastern Conference because of the environment and the fan excitement and all that. There's a lot of game 6 of the finals because everybody realized what could be for a second. They asked Pacers players, for social content at the finals to rank all of Ty's buzzer beaters, and I found that to be a fun exercise. For me personally, I will never forget the MSG one. I mean, that was the craziest comeback to me. I think the final stage obviously makes that one awesome, but 14 points in less than 3 minutes with Neesmith going crazy, the ball bouncing like a gazillion feet in the air, and being ready to do the choke sign. That was all so crazy. Like an NBA moment where I was like, am I here? Is this really happening? But I think they were all spectacular because they were all just so dramatic. But I think the Game 5 Bucks one has become underrated in the history because it was at home, right? So it was the only one that happened in front of Indy fans who got to go crazy during this whole comeback, and people were leaving. People thought it was over when AJ Green was headed to the foul line, and then just slowly but surely it was this could happen. And he got to jump on the score table and all that, and obviously all the stuff with Giannis ruined it a little bit. But that one was an underratedly awesome moment, not only because it was at home and it was an insane comeback, but they clinched the series. It was as celebratory of a moment as could be. So there's so many crazy, great playoff moments this year for the Pacers. The Siakam dunk in the finals, all of Halliburton's buzzer beaters. There are many great wins at home, but I think that Bucks game and the MSG game rise very high for me in terms of just wow, I can't believe that I saw that kind of stuff.
I was at the Bucks game, and I remember sitting there. The people were. I remember people leaving, people asking me to move out of the way so they could go home. I'm just I don't think you're making a good choice.
AJ Green got fouled, a third of the section next to the media thing was just gone all of a sudden. I was like, are you guys crazy? Don't get me wrong. It looks really over, but I don't know. It's the playoffs, man. You paid a lot for these tickets anyway.
That's exactly right. I'm sitting there the whole game. I went to Game 3 against Cleveland, and my dad and brother came up, and I was like, "We're not leaving. I don't care. We're not leaving." Joined by Tony East of Locked On Pacers, talking about just what was a fantastic Pacers playoff run, what kind of the offseason is going to look like for them. How big was the trade with the Raptors before Halliburton gets hurt? Because I know we're talking about stopgap point guards and all that kind of stuff. I know I'm wrong, Tony. I think they should tank. I think they should be bad.
Oh, I do not.
You don't? Why not?
No, they're too good. They can't.
Yeah, that is the issue.
Even if what would that even look like? It'd be shutting down half their team. They'd have to trade Siakam now, right? Without Halliburton this year, they were basically a 500 team. That's not good enough to be worth it. I don't know. It is. That trade was amazing. I was telling people and talking to people in the league privately, man, the Pacers really need to trade their pick for a future pick, specifically a 2026 pick for a lot of really goofy draft reasons, rule reasons. I did not even consider them getting their own pick back. I thought that was a genius trade before he got hurt. Now it looks like the greatest trade ever. That was a stroke of genius.
Joined by Tony East of Locked On Pacers. As soon as, and then, obviously Halliburton goes down, and I know you said that they're probably a 500-ish team without Halliburton, but after seeing, the Mavericks with a 1% chance win the lottery, and then the Hawks had a 3% chance and they won the lottery, does the shifting of the lottery odds change how people feel about that a little bit, or no?
It does, yeah, but I think that's both of those teams were, I mean, especially this with the Mavs, for most of the seasons that they jumped up were trying, and then something in the Hawks case, terrible happened, and that terrible thing was that they're just not very good. And in the Mavs case, they made a terrible trade, and like all of a sudden they had to kind of reorient and tank down the stretch of those seasons. And so that like would make sense in theory for the Pacers if they get to March 1st, February, the trade deadline, whatever, and they're the 7th best team in the East. Like, okay, what are you doing? Shut down your guys, pack it up, get ready for next year. But if you're the 6th seed or better, or have a chance to at least make the field, like, and your team is good, like that's what the next season has to be about. Reorienting your pieces and learning how guys can get better around Halliburton, or how guys can get better in general. And obviously their goals of winning for 1 year are gone, but you have to set up the goals for winning the year after. And what's the draft pick help with that, right? Like the Hawks just happen to stink anyway, so Risha say fits their timeline. But you're a Mavs guy. Like Cooper Flagg is so good that people are saying the Mavs should trade their good players because their timeline should not be Cooper Flagg, because he will not be good when the Mavs are trying to be good, and then he will be a great player when the Mavs no longer have the rest of their good players, right? And that's the other problem the Pacers have.
That's a very valid point. Joined by Tony East of Locked On Pacers, also covers the Fever as well, who played tonight at 10 o'clock, late night, once again for Tony. What's up with the Fever, aside from the fights that go viral on social media?
Yeah, they were just a little overrated coming into the year is honestly the biggest answer. Like I thought they were a touch overrated by anybody anyway. Like putting them in the title conversation felt a little high to me, but I thought they'd be a little better than this. Obviously, I think most people did, as they're 6-7, and they're just So the one problem with assessing their season so far is how kind of start-stop it's been. The season starts and Caitlin gets hurt, and Dewana Bonner, they added an all-star. She's been out of the lineup for a while now, and their coach has missed multiple games, and Sophie Cunningham has missed multiple games. Like they just have had no ability and rhythm to get any sort of consistent consecutive games with all of the pieces they thought they'd have, and that's why people thought they'd be good, is they had like a top 10 that made a lot of sense, and they clearly built to play a specific style around Caitlin. So the games without her, throw them out the window, right? I get that. Like that part of why they're playing bad is that part of their season, just the absences and all that. But truly, like their clutch play has been a disaster. They lost by 1 to the Liberty. They lost by 1 to the Dream. They lost a close game to the Mystics. Their last 2 losses, they were winning entering the fourth quarter of both of them, right? Like I just named 5 of their 7 losses, right? Like They have not been good enough closing games, and that's been a really big problem for them. And some of that comes down to like the game slowing down has not been kind to them. They're a very good first action team, as in their first action. I understand what they're doing. I get what shot they're trying to get to. And then if that dies, they seem really poor at kind of resetting and figuring out how to get to the next thing. So when they had that really nice stretch where that, Caitlin came back, they beat the Liberty, they beat Connecticut, they were just scoring off the first action a lot. Like who cares about the second action? Just score on the first one, right? That's great. But now they've kind of lost some flow. Caitlin's missing some threes. That first action isn't as revealing. And their defense is better than it's ever been, like with me covering them, but it's not quite good enough to make up for all that. So they just have a lot of things that are like really connected, holding them back in a way that like makes you totally understand how it'd be easy to squint and be like, oh yeah, they could be the 4th best team in the league pretty easily, any second hour, 5th best, whatever, depending on what you think of the Aces. But they have not shown, outside of one win where they made 17 threes, any sort of consistency to hit the high level that people thought. And so they've just been kind of bouncing around looking for that consistency. And if they, and then when they get Bonner back, maybe they get it. But Seattle's good tonight, like another measuring stick game that they would like to win after losing the last 2.
Joined by Tony East of Locked On Pacers, also a beat writer for the Fever and the Pacers. You can follow him on X at Tony R. East. What is, oh man, I let me figure out how I had like 3 questions pop into my head while you were giving that answer, and now my mind's all jumbled. Let's start with Christy Sides. Do we have an idea on when she's supposed to come back?
Stephanie White, you mean? But
thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. I was watching a video about Christy Sides the other day, and I don't get me wrong. I think Stephanie White's a great coach, but I always thought Christy Sides was a better coach. As people who listen to your program know, than people gave her credit for, and I think people are starting to realize that now. She has been away for I think people have connected the dots that Lisa Selters was away from the finals, so a family stuff going on there. She's back now. I think she'll coach tonight, but yeah, obviously that in and out absence. That game they played with Austin Kelly coaching against Chicago, and now on this road trip, she'll be back now. That's obviously part of this. Austin Kelly's a smart coach. He's been with oh my gosh, I just did it too. Stephanie White before, obviously. So he's been with Stephanie White before for years. They have good synergy on the bench. So yeah, they'll be fine there.
Okay, that's good. So you mentioned that the Fever had one game where they hit 17 threes, and obviously, like, look, when you make 17 threes, like, you're probably going to win. Is that what this Fever team is supposed to be? Like, are they supposed to be a fast-paced, up and down, we're getting threes up kind of team? Like, is that when they're at their best?
Yeah, I think the idea of their offense was pace and space very clearly, right? Think of what Caitlin Clark's good at. Great, build around that, right? And so they bring in Sophie Cunningham, who can really shoot it and play with space and play with the ball, and Duana Bonner can be an efficient play finisher, and Aaliyah Boston's improving in that way. Like, every addition they made, it either helps them by being effective in that offensive scheme, or helps them by improving their defense in a way that gets them into the open floor, right? Bonner is certainly better as a defender, thought of better as a defender at this point. Colson's a better defender than an offensive player. Brianna Turner's a better defender than an offensive player, right? So that was kind of the thinking with all their additions, is like, get more stops to be a better transition team and be that kind of spread out shooting pace and space team. And you've seen it at their best. They can get them up and make them. And obviously Caitlin went crazy in that game. They made 17 threes, but they have that ability in them. It's just the shots haven't been there all the time. And like, that's the nature of trying to be a jump shooting team, is it will come and go. And that's why the flow of the rest of their offense and their non-transition stuff matters so much to me.
What'd you make of Sophie Cunningham's comments about how if the league won't protect Caitlin Clark, she will?
Oh, I didn't even see these. I saw she did media in in Vegas when they were out there, but I was in Oklahoma City for the finals, so I didn't get a chance to watch it, even though I did watch that game. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's quite the thing to say.
That's quite the thing to say. I saw it. I was like, oh.
I don't know how the league is supposed to protect Caitlin Clark. So I don't know what their job is in this situation.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I
guess
it's good that teammates are standing up for their teammate, but that doesn't really make logical sense to me.
Yeah. Joined by Tony East of Locked On Pacers, also covers the Fever as well. You can follow him on X at Tony R East. I'm with you. Like, we have talked about this. A lot of people only watch the Fever. Not everybody, but I don't know if you saw the number. I guess like 50%, or the WNBA had like a 50% ratings drop when Clark got hurt. But like, if you watch everyone, stuff like this happens all the time. Like, all the confrontation and the pushing, the shoving, it happens to everybody. So I'm with you. It's like, whatever.
The two teams that got in the biggest scuffles with the Fever this year, Connecticut and Chicago, also got into a scuffle with each other, right? Like, it's just how these people are, man. And like, Caitlin's a smack talker, right? Like, she is a part of this too. It's all silly to me, man. It's all so silly.
It is. I mean, who would have thought? No one likes the young player who's probably already better than they are and talks a lot of crap. Like, who?
Dude, I don't even think they don't like her, right? I think they're fine with her. It's just that she talks smack during the games. Like, that gets everybody amped up. And when the refs can't get control of it because they don't call fouls and they let stuff escalate, like, it's going to happen like that. It's just people just miss everything that's happening and just assume that there's like some giant conspiracy going on. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Oh man, that is the world we live in, sadly. Have you done any research on who the Pacers could take with the 54th pick tomorrow night?
No. Normally, like, I try to have some. I have to make myself sound like a non-expert here. Like, I try to every year sit down, like, okay, who do I like in the draft? Like, what's a Tony East kind of player, right? I want to sound like I have something to say about their draft picks and what's going to happen. Like, when they're playing in the finals up through Sunday, I have done none. Yeah. None at all.
What is a Tony East player?
I don't know. I just like guys who like clearly know how to play, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
for example, I can tell you who's not a Tony East player. Ace Bailey is not a Tony East player at all, right? Like people keep talking about him falling in the draft. I'm like, yeah, good. This is a Tony East experience coming through in the draft. And I'm not even saying Tony East players end up being good. I was like stupid high on guys who end up being out of the league in a year and a half. But I just guys who have good, like I love Con Knipple. I think he's gonna be awesome. Noah Senge, this overseas kid, I think he's gonna be awesome. But guess what? The Pacers can't pick those guys. They're gonna come before
unless they
even have a chance. So I have nothing to say.
Yeah, this draft, the Ace Bailey stuff. I am immediately biased, Tony, against every tall guy that can like kind of shoot. And if they're skinny, especially, because if you're a tall, skinny guy who can shoot, everyone's like, you're Kevin Durant. And I'm like, no, they're not.
It's just he lit up IU, right? I saw that
Yes.
game because it was IU, obviously. So that's like the only full game I've watched of him. But when I sit down and watch like what the thing on this guy's supposed to be, I'm like, okay, so he makes a bunch of tough shots against college kids. Like with better defenders, he's gonna stink, right? Like unless he's this awesome shot maker against better defenders too, and maybe he is. That's how Jason Tatum became an awesome pro. I also wasn't high on Jason Tatum, and he's an MVP candidate. So what the heck do I know? But like I'm always very wary of players in college who can't create space and make a bunch of tough shots. And that has led me well almost every non-Tatum time. And that's the Ace Bailey experience. And maybe he can make those shots in the pros like Tatum. It's just a scary archetype. Like that player can be awesome. That player can also be so bad.
I think he's Jabari Smith Jr. without the defensive upside.
That is also a good way to put it. Yeah,
very well. That's what I think he is. And which is, not worthy of a top 10 pick. Speaking of Jabari Smith Jr., I do want your opinion on these last two things. What'd you make of the Kevin Durant trade, and how surprised were you that the Trailblazers were the team that traded for Drew Holiday?
Oh, yeah. Not shocker for the Durant one. Obviously, that was a fit that made sense. I mean, I've been talking, like, again, just chit-chatting with people in the league about the Rockets, and, like, everybody's like, yeah, they might run it back. I'm like, why? That doesn't make any sense. Like, they have such obvious weaknesses, and that like their young guys, it's kind of obvious what they're going to be like. It's not really the hope. And then they traded. And I was like, yeah, okay, that makes way more sense. Like Jalen Green didn't make sense there. They had too much stuff. Dylan Brooks would barely play. Now that Kevin Durant's on the team, like, that's a really good trade for the Rockets. I think they're going to be really, really good now. I mean, that's basically exactly what they're missing as a play finisher. They will miss Jalen Green, like being their only guy who can break them out of offensive funks a lot of the time. They're going to be relying on like Fred VanVleet to do that now a lot. They are missing a little bit of shot creation, but they'll be really good. Kevin Durant's still awesome. That's a goofy. The Suns obviously took the trade that got them the most value, but I still look at that. I'm like, that's goofy. Like, what are you doing? And then, yeah, that trade last night. What are the Blazers doing? I don't get that one at all. Don't get me wrong. Like
they were good late in the year, but
yeah. Oh yeah, they're gonna have a top 10 defense now for sure, right? Like Avdia, Holiday, and that is a nasty defensive pairing. Jeremy Grant can guard. Like their vets are good, and they were a good defensive team with the young guys they already have. And Simons is not a good defender and is on an expiring contract next year. Like okay, like you have to figure out what to do with him. But I wouldn't be giving up picks plus the younger player as the Portland Trailblazers. Like are you really going to be competitive next year? They're with Drew Holiday in the mix. They could make the plan now. Don't get me wrong, but for what? Like what do you hope that accomplishes for you? And I think that's good value for the Celtics, who can either keep him or he's very flippable and move on from there.
I think Drew Holiday's pretty flippable as well. Like the Blazers could look up, be bad, and be like, all right, Drew, we're gonna move you. Scoot Henderson, more minutes for you, man. Which if I was a Blazers fan, I don't think I'd be very excited about that. Tony, thanks for your time as always. I'm sure I'll shoot you a text again here at some point. Thank you so much for coming on throughout the season. I'm going to do my best to give you a bit of a break from the show, man. Thank you.
It's always fun, man.
All right.
Thank you.
See ya. That is Tony East. You can check him out on X at Tony R East. Does a great job covering both the Fever and the Pacers. Just a hoops head in general. When we come back here in about 4 minutes, Pacers playoff moments. What were the best ones when we come back?
it's in today's sports world, it's here. The real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in. No matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on X__Jonathan Smith. Maybe you're listening via the Indy Sports Ticket app. No matter how you're listening, it's greatly appreciated. And I did it again. I was supposed to call for Holiday World Ticket potential winners, and I didn't do it. That's on me. I'll be better. We're going to give them away here. Coming up here in about 5 minutes when we hit this next break. And the NBA draft is tomorrow night. And John Buzzer, he tweeted at me. And he put out this poll that I'm now actually very intrigued to see how it goes. He said, as far as must-see TV, which draft do you actually watch? I don't watch any of the drafts. I don't really see the point. And yeah, I really don't. It's like I can just kind of wait. I can see everything that I need to see on X or, whatever social media platform you want to use, because all that stuff gets tweeted out or posted pretty quickly. And it's like why am I going to sit in front of the TV and do this when I can read my book and just check my phone after every chapter that I read, Like I sit in front of a TV all the time, like way, way, way too much. And so if I have the choice of I cannot sit in front of a TV, instead I can just stare at my phone because that's much better. I think I'm going to opt for that. So very curious, YouTube chat. Do you watch any of the drafts? If so, which ones? I don't know anyone who watches the Major League Baseball draft. That has to be the worst draft to watch. Legitimately. The Major League Baseball draft. It's like, all right, I saw this 18-year-old kid's face. I'll see him again in 7 years when he's playing for the Tampa Bay Rays. Can't wait. Speaking of can't wait, I can't wait for football season. I can't wait for next basketball season. By the way, today is Chris Ballard's birthday. And, I hope he has a happy birthday. I genuinely mean that. It's my mom's birthday today as well. So happy birthday to my mom. She's probably not listening. She heard me talk for 18 years. She probably doesn't want to hear me talk anymore. That's fine. But the Colts, I'm so intrigued to see the first story that comes out of training camp, which I thought had already started by now. And we haven't really heard anything. Haven't heard about Anthony Richardson in a while. Haven't heard about, Daniel Jones. And I am so just kind of ready for this quarterback battle to start because Anthony Richardson, he's going to be healthy. And we're going to get a real quarterback battle. And we're going to get, those two guys going at it. And July, that's when training camp is. We have training camp in a month. Jeez, what are we going to do for the next month? Talk about who the Pacers took with the 54th overall pick? Oh, please no. But seriously, I want to see what this training camp looks like. I want to see what Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones look like with pads on. Right? That is the biggest thing because I think that, Anthony Richardson hurt his shoulder and all of the momentum for him to be the starter, it felt like it just came to a halt. It was like, he hurt his shoulder again. He's done. But no, he's going to be back for training camp, right? He's working through it, healing that thing up. And I think that, he could maybe be really good this year. I said maybe, so don't hold me to that. But the Daniel Jones stuff is going to be interesting. And I say that because I keep thinking back to Gardner Minshew and all of his limitations. Because Gardner Minshew was a limited quarterback. He was. That's why he was the backup in Las Vegas to freaking Aiden O'Connell, who's not very good. And Daniel Jones is limited as well, right? Doesn't have the biggest arm. Doesn't really push the ball down the field. And I think if the Colts can just pull that out of him a little bit, right? If they can just get him to occasionally throw the ball more than 4 yards down the field. That's what he is, man. He's a check down merchant. If they could just get him to do that periodically, because I do think that the Colts have some guys on the outside who can really make plays, like guys like Michael Pittman Jr. is a guy who runs really good routes, kind of down the middle of the field. Like he's not running 4 yards away from the line of scrimmage. Like you've got to drop back and let it rip. You got Tyler Warren, big body over the middle, who can really kind of hold it down for you. Right. And then, of course, you got guys like A.D. Mitchell and Alec Pierce on the outside who can really run. And I'm just so curious to see what Shane Steichen does with this offense to both merge the players that the Colts have on the outside with potentially what Daniel Jones gives you as a quarterback, which is a guy who is incredibly conservative, doesn't really look to push the ball down the field, and when he does, can make some really bad choices. Also, he can run a little bit. Like the quarterback run game, no matter who plays quarterback for the Colts this season, is going to be present. And, it'll obviously be a little bit more dynamic with Richardson as opposed to Daniel Jones, but one way or the other, we're going to see it. So very intrigued to kind of see what the Colts end up doing with that quarterback battle that we're going to get here in about a month or so. When we come back here in about 4 minutes, more thoughts on the Pacers and the playoffs, just my 10 favorite moments from these playoffs during the break. Pull out your phone right now. 317-228-1430. That is the number if you want to call in for your chance to win some Holiday World and Splashin' Safari tickets. It's hot outside. You want to cool off, go to the Splashin' Safari. If you want to cool off, get on a roller coaster and fly around a little bit. Feel the wind in your face to cool you down. They're also doing some really cool sky drone shows and fireworks shows now through August 3rd to celebrate this 4th of July. Enjoy thrilling the rides all day long. Then stick around as the sky lights up with holidays in the sky drone show and firework display. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be a blast. Here's the number again, 317-228-1430. Call in right now for your chance to win tickets to Holiday World and Splashin' Safari.
Everyone has a fave Wendy's Frosty flavor. And when you're choosing from chocolate or vanilla, it's not that hard. But now, there's all new Frosty Swirls and Frosty Fusions. So try picking your fave from Oreo Brownie Fusion, Pop-Tarts Strawberry Fusion, Strawberry Swirl, Brownie Batter Swirl, Caramel Swirl, and Caramel Crunch Fusion. Not so easy now, huh? For a fresh way to Frosty, gotta be Wendy's. Open till midnight or later.
At participating U.S. Wendy's. Hours may vary by location. Oreo is a trademark of Mondelez International Group. Pop-Tarts is a trademark of Kellogg North America Co., LLC. Used with permission.
Buying a new car might make you say things like,
I can't believe it.
Seriously, it's ours?
Is this real life?
Move it!
Yeah, it's real life, all right.
but what you really need to say is something that can protect your new ride.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Yep, we're here to help you choose the coverage you need. So just remember, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
State Farm, Bloomington, Illinois.
may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Uh-oh. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Tickets, go head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on X, _ Jonathan Smith, or maybe you're listening on that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. Now, shout out to Tyler Fox for tweeting at me during the break. Apparently, Brian Windhorst said this morning, I don't have the full context. I was looking for the video, couldn't find it. Apparently, Brian Windhorst this morning was asked about which teams this summer that we should keep an eye on to see if they make moves and things like that. And Brian Windhorst said keep a very close eye on Indiana. And Tyler Fox, very great question. What does this mean? Here's the reality for the Indiana Pacers. They're not going to win the title this next season. What is the point of paying the luxury tax if you're not going to win the title? And I'm not saying that to say that the Pacers aren't going to extend Miles Turner. Okay, I am saying that to say, are there other contracts that they could potentially shed, guys that are going to get older, guys that, aren't going to be the same when Tyrese Halliburton comes back? And one of the first guys, to me, that comes to mind is TJ McConnell. And I know that we love TJ McConnell here in the great, state of Indiana. A guy who just shows up and he plays hard and he's a really good player. With that being said, after the incredible run that TJ McConnell just went on, his, trade value has never been higher. The Pacers could move TJ McConnell and get more for him right now than they could at any other time during the season. And they're due to pay that guy $11 million next year. I don't know how far they're going to be over the cap whenever, they re-sign Miles Turner, but $11 million isn't nothing. It's not. That's also a guy whose value goes up because teams are going to have control over his contract, not only just next year, but for multiple years after that. And so, that is a guy that they could potentially move. Obi Toppin, it's a guy who's going to make $15 million next year. I love Obi Toppin. You love Obi Toppin. High flying, throwing down dunks, being impactful on the glass when he's really playing his best. The Pacers need 27-year-old Obi Toppin, who will be 29 when Tyrese Halliburton comes back. By the way, they're only going to have him for a year. Actually, that's not true. They'll have him for 2 years. No. Wait, am I reading this right? They'll have him for an extra year after Halliburton comes back. So there are guys that the Pacers could potentially trade. Especially if the Pacers want to take next year to really evaluate Jarris Walker. Do you really need Obi Toppin? Also, you can find a lot of athletic forwards who can run, finish dunks, make threes, and rebound. You can probably find some that defend a little bit better than Obi Toppin does as well. And I mean, it's really funny. I thought Obi Toppin was really good in the series, and I'm sure that if another guy that if the Pacers traded right now would go for more than the 2 second-round picks that the Pacers gave up to acquire him, a couple years ago. And so I think Brian Windhorst is saying to keep an eye on the Pacers this summer because they've got good players that will be a little bit older, like TJ McConnell, going to be almost 35 when Halliburton comes back. Do you really want almost 35-year-old, TJ McConnell running around? I mean, come on now. So with that being said, I do think that that we're going to see Miles Turner back as a Pacer. Coach Carlisle apparently said this morning that re-signing him was goal number one. And from there, we'll kind of see what the Pacers do. So Don't be surprised though if they move, a TJ McConnell or an Obi Toppin. I don't think they would move Aaron Nesmith. I think he's way too valuable. But I mean, I guess they could. Like I said though, I'd be surprised if they did. So I think that's why Windhorst was saying to keep an eye on these Pacers. Okay, because I think that there's somewhat of a chance that TJ McConnell or Obi Toppin gets moved. We'll see. With that being said, I don't really want to talk about that right now. I don't want to talk about next year. I don't want to talk about the NBA draft. I want to talk about the amazing Indiana Pacer playoff run, because that's what it was. It was an amazing run. I know that it didn't end the way that any Pacer fan wanted, but I had fun watching the whole thing, man. Seriously. Halliburton hitting game winners. Miles Turner playing good defense down the stretch. Benedict Mathurin having 2 big games against the Knicks. Pascal Siakam going for 39 in game 2 on the road in Madison Square Garden. All the comebacks. It has been arguably the most entertaining playoff run we've seen from any team in the history of the NBA, most definitely. Dare I say, in any sport? I don't know. Because there's really nothing more thrilling in sports than amazing comebacks. And the Pacers had 4 of them. 1 in each round. One against the Thunder, 1 against the Knicks, 1 against the Cavaliers, and then, of course, 1 against the Bucks. And it felt like they just got crazier and crazier as the season or as the playoffs progressed. And it has been just a blast to watch this team. And so I put together a list for Top 10 Tuesday of my 10 favorite Pacer playoff moments / games. Miles Turner, game 4 against the Bucks was awesome. 23 points, 4 blocks, kind of showed everything that he does well, made threes, finished around the rim, set good screens, and defended the bucket at a very high level. So he comes in right there at number 10. Number 9, this is a little bit more of a generalization as opposed to a specific moment. But just every TJ McConnell spurt, every time TJ McConnell went crazy, it just felt like the Pacers were going to win. It's like, McConnell's going to get 14 tonight off the bench. This is a Pacers W. That's what it felt like. It wasn't necessarily true, but every time he would get it going, especially at home, you could just feel the temperature of the building rise a little bit. And you could feel people, just the excitement came through the TV whenever he would do the things that TJ McConnell does, whether that's, make a 7-foot jumper or steal an inbound pass, whatever it is. So McConnell and his ability to do that is just incredible. Number 8, game 3, Benedict Mathurin going for 27 points in 22 minutes was a lot of fun. Getting to the rim, he's making threes, just being an elite scorer. And, whenever Benedict Mathurin has stretches where he looks like that, it's like, man, like let's give that dude as much money as we can. And then, he'll follow it up with 7 points on 8 shots. And that's obviously not good either. So, we'll kind of see what he looks like going forward. I do think that Benedict Mathurin is going to have a lot of opportunity this next year to kind of show how good of a player he is. Number 7 on the list, Pacers beating the Knicks to advance to the NBA Finals. That was just a really cool feeling. I am, in my heart of hearts, a Dallas Mavericks fan. With that being said, how can you not root for this Pacers team? Right? So, yeah, they're awesome. Number 6, game 4, Eastern Conference Finals, Tyrese Halliburton going for 32 points, 15 assists, and no turnovers. Just a masterclass. An absolute masterclass of how to score the basketball while also getting your teammates involved. It's one of the harder things to do, I think, in the sport, because you see so many players who are gifted scorers, and I've talked quite a bit about how gifted of a scorer I think Tyrese Halliburton is. And yet, he's a very unselfish guy who does a really good job of getting his teammates involved. But there's so many guys in the NBA, in college basketball as well, where they'll go to the rim or they'll come off a screen, and what they're doing is predetermined. And they just kind of get tunnel vision on that thing, and then, they'll turn it over, or they'll take a bad shot, or the defense, is, playing a different style than what they thought, and so they turn it over, or the offense just looks clunky. Halliburton's ability to just react to things as they happen and kind of see them before is really impressive, and I thought we got a full display of that in that Game 4 performance where he went for 32 points and 15 assists and no turnovers in what, at that point in the year, was the Pacers' biggest game of the season. Number 5, another masterclass, Pascal Siakam going for 39 against the Knicks, just catching the ball 16 feet away from the basket and scoring no matter who was guarding him was incredibly amazing to just kind of watch him do that. Obviously, the Cavaliers comeback was so much fun. Missing the free throw perfectly. Halliburton hits the step back 3 over Ty Jerome. Money. Pacers go up 2-0. A game that no one thought that they could win or would win. They found a way to do it because that's what this Pacers did. They just found a way time and time again. Number 3, the Bucks come back. I was at that game. Just, once again, the Pacers just keep playing. They just keep doing what it is that they do. Okay? I mean, he's just awesome. Love watching, that game was amazing. Halliburton beating, Giannis to the rim, finishing, boom, ball game. Pacers win the series. Number 2, the Knicks come back. Anytime you do anything awesome in Madison Square Garden, it lives on for forever. So Aaron Nesmith hitting, 6 threes in that fourth quarter will never be forgotten. The Halliburton ball hit the heel of the rim, shoot 100 feet into the air, and then fall through the hoop will never be forgotten. The fact that he did the choke sign after it, it'll never be forgotten. And NBA Finals game winners are never forgotten either. Tyrese Halliburton and his game winner in Game 1 of the NBA Finals. That, to me, was my favorite moment. It's the first moment where I was like, you know what? The Pacers can, legitimately win this series. Ross Campbell over on the YouTube chat asking a good question. Looking at a mock draft, the first 8 picks are freshmen. Not surprising. It's pretty normal. And what's with the height without shoes? Are they playing in socks? So the height thing is interesting because I think that they specify it because obviously you're taller with shoes on. You're going to be 2 inches taller, somewhere around that, whenever you're obviously wearing shoes. And I think that they do that just so that people know, this isn't how tall he's going to be on the court. Should they just, measure people's height with shoes that they wear? Yes, but I don't know. You can put lifts in your shoes. You can play in different shoes that make you a little bit taller. So I kind of like that they do it with their shoes off. That way you, okay, this guy's a real 6'4", and, that's really important. To know how tall a guy is. Yeah, so that's probably why they do it that way, just so that what their real height is, and they're not doing anything to manipulate that. So that's going to do it here on the Real Jonathan Smith Show. The NBA draft is tomorrow. There's not a ton of Pacer stuff going on. I'll probably have something on the Fever because they play tonight against the Seattle Storm, and I'm gonna have stuff on the draft. I may just throw out all of my draft takes. All of my half-baked draft takes because I like Tony East. Since, the Pacers have been playing so late, I haven't sat down and really gone through all of my NBA draft stuff. So I am going to go through it tonight, as much of it as I can, and I'm going to have draft takes for you all day tomorrow. I can't wait. I think tomorrow is going to be a blast. I love the draft. I love getting to say things that won't come true for 7 years. That's a little much. That won't come true for 4 years, and then everyone forgets what I said by the time that it happens. So, yeah, I'll have NBA draft takes for you all day tomorrow. Can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you're tuned in, whether that's YouTube, X, or the Indy Sports Ticket app. The Dan Dockett Show comes your way next. Mark Boyle is going to be on the show at 12:30. Hopefully going to get Eddie White on as well. So it's going to be another great show for Dan Dockett. Make sure you stay tuned in. Thank you again for watching. I'll talk to you tomorrow starting at 10 a.m.